Taurus, I don't think I said this strongly enough the last 2 months, but I suspected that you were attempting to cheat the universe, God, Allah, your ancestors, yourself. I suspected that I'd given you advice and you were seemingly taking it, but secretly ignoring it. Maybe you weren't even conscious that you were ignoring it, but that's exactly what you were doing. And now this month of August, the wheels come off because of your actions. Yes, you know, you have been inside yourself, you have looked for answers, you have changed, but still you're holding on to things. And this causes a feeling of poverty, a feeling of being by yourself in things. And that permeates this entire month. The energy that begins this month, as it were, is the energy of death. An ending, probably abrupt. I noticed another reader has said that death doesn't have to be abrupt, and of course it doesn't. Probably abrupt. But one in which there is still hope, if only you can look for it. As a result of this feeling of being poor, I mean, maybe you lose a job or a business, I don't know, but as a result of it, you're back to being somewhat miserly, and you've been like that before, and that surprised me, because I'd always seen you as generous. And that being somewhat miserly leads you to trying to balance things. Maybe trying to balance your work and your side hustle. Maybe trying to balance your work and your private life. I don't know. But that trying to balance things comes from this feeling of being poor. And indeed, that ultimately leads you to going out and looking for material, benefits, money. What would change all this is you planning something quite radical. Now, you might well say to me, well, I was planning something quite radical and you told me to stop. So I don't fully understand that, but I think maybe it's something slightly different that would help you to overcome these things. Very interesting, Taurus. Let's get into it. And what dominates this spread and your August is a feeling of poverty. It doesn't necessarily have to be objective poverty. It could just mean that you feel a loss of money. Now, maybe you do lose money. Maybe you lose a business. Maybe you lose a job. Or maybe you simply lose some investments. But there's a feeling of loss here that does feel like poverty, but it doesn't have to be abject poverty. There's also a feeling that you're by yourself, that you have nobody to turn to. You can always turn to me. I don't know how much I can help, but you can always turn to me. Don't feel that you're by yourself. And this energy always says to me, there is hope there, if only you can look up. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute, Taurus, that you haven't put hard work in, that you haven't explored yourself, including your own shadow. Did you get to the bottom of things? I'm not sure. I had this feeling that, as I say, you were being disingenuous. And it might be as much disingenuous to yourself as it is disingenuous to whoever you think is directing such things, be it God, Allah, your ancestors, the universe. So I'm certainly not having a go at you, but you've put in some work, but I don't think, even though you've made many changes, I don't think you've actually worked hard enough, and there's more that you need to do. And the upshot of this somewhat inconclusive inner work is death. I think it is a sudden and abrupt ending, and it's not a welcome ending. What's it an ending to? Is it a job? Is it a business? Is it a dream? I think you know better than I what it's an ending to. But it is an ending. You were told to end a dream, and I don't think you did end that dream. And you gave every sign that you'd ended it, but I don't think you did. Now that dream might be to do with a job or a side hustle, a business. So I don't want to be prescriptive in what I'm saying it is, and I'm sure it's this that leads you to the feeling of poverty. But it's quite bitter, I would suspect. Now this feeling of poverty, and it is a feeling, as I say, it's probably more a feeling of loss. But such things can be self-fulfilling, because of, if you feel, oh, what can I do? I've got no resources, got no money. Then you send in messages to the universe that that's actually what you want. I've said it many times before, but what is worry but a prayer for things to go wrong? So it's a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. It does, however, in the future spur you into action, going and looking for probably money. Let's call it money. Now, I'm not sure at a time like this that's a good thing to be doing, but at least it shows your resilience. So I don't want to criticise this action, because you're not moping around going, I've got no money, what can I do? I've just said that at least you don't mope around going, I've got no money, what can I do? But I think to a certain degree that is your initial reaction. Initial reaction certainly is to restrict your spending. Maybe you have to, maybe that's a very natural thing to do. But again, the message that sends to the universe is that's what you want. Now, I don't subscribe. I've lived in America, and I don't know if this is the American psyche or just the crap I was taught when I was working as a business consultant, but I was sort of taught that if you're feeling short of money, go out and rent a fancy car, make yourself feel good. Now, I'm not coming out with that. I'm absolutely not coming out with that. Don't dig yourself deeper into it. But do be careful of this sort of slight miserly touch. And we have seen you in it before. Do you know, I've launched into this sort of telling you off about not having done enough, of secretly holding on to some desires. And yet, could it be that we're being told that if you plan what are these desires, it's the antidote to where you are? Have I got this wrong? Do you know, I think I might have. I don't think it is that it's absolutely what your plans were that is causing these problems. It's an aspect to them. It's an aspect to them that maybe is a little bit unsavoury. And it's that you really need to explore. Because you're being told here to plan something radical, and it'll take your mind off these things. How interesting, Taurus. Now, this feeling of being short of money leads you to struggling with what are like work-life balance issues. But I suspect this is you attempting to balance your regular work, your side hustle as it were, and all the other things that are going on in your life. And you're finding it a little bit difficult. And that comes out of this feeling of being short of money or loss of money. And it's that you're allowing to dominate your thinking too much. I've got to get clarity on this death card, haven't I? So let's go ahead and do that. So yes, I seek clarity on the energy of the death card. First card that comes out is this Devil card. It's no surprise to me, but we need to talk about what that is shortly. The next is the Chariot. Sense of purpose, sense of direction, sense of knowing what you're doing the wrong things. And the final card is another Two of Pentacles. So trying to do too much, too many things on your plate.
Mon Dieu, les
Now, what is this devil energy? We've had it before for you many times, Taurus. And I concluded it was that you were in love with a narcissist. And I thought that was all over. Is it that really you're putting... Is it that really you're hiding from yourself? Is that the dark secret here? The thing that you've not exposed? Could it be that the plans that you were making included this narcissist? Both are entirely possible. But then maybe it's got nothing to do with them and I'm being misdirected. Maybe it is simply there is something a little bit unsavoury about your plans, your desires. There's something that's not right about it. Might not even be an unhealthy attachment. It might be something that many people would see as being somewhat wrong. I'm not going to explore any further. You will know what I'm talking about, Taurus.
Que le pardone clémence, ô mon Dieu.
As I say, I don't want to explore what it is that's unsavoury, but to give you a little bit more sort of guidance on it, it is very much to do with a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, plans that you have that seem to be in harmony, that give you a sense of direction and indeed at times urgency and balance. So it's all bound up in this, and there's something about it that, as I say, is somewhat unsavoury, and this has caused this ending to it. You've not released it for sure. Yeah.
Nous rappelons au précepte sacré, ouvrons nos bras.
What has really brought about this ending, Taurus, is you've been trying to do too much. You've got your job, maybe a side hustle, and maybe this ambition. Maybe they're three separate things, I don't know. But certainly there are a number of things here that you, and your private life, you know, a number of things that you're trying to run with, and probably you're no longer doing any successfully. Now, I have bitter experience of this. I had a dark secret for many years. You see, I was very unhappy in my relationship with somebody who was also a narcissist, who claimed that the child, the person I still call my son, was mine, and I'm not so certain he was. But because of that, I felt obliged to stay with him until he went to university. Now, that didn't quite happen as planned. Well, anyway. But I was on a genuine business trip to Indonesia, and I met who is now my wife. And I led something of a double life for a number of years. I was wanting to end that double life as soon as possible, but fate kept pushing things in the way that prevented me from ending a double life, you know. And you can't do it. You can't do it. It gets to you. It really does. And I think things have gotten to you, Taurus. Taurus, how do I begin to summarise? You've done a lot of inner work. And I have to compliment you for it. But there's something still there. There's a darkness that still exists. This darkness which we'll come to, but this darkness brings about an ending. It's an ending that I think causes you material loss. You certainly have a feeling of poverty, maybe a feeling of being all alone, and it does make you somewhat miserly. And that feeling of being miserly leads to problems in balancing all that you have to do in terms of work, business, your life as well. You're struggling a little. However, I think you break out of it later and you go out looking for wealth, which, whilst I might be critical of, I think it's probably what you need to be doing. Although the universe is suggesting, look, why don't you get back to planning more radical things? Now, you were doing that, and it was taken away from you, and I advised you to stop. But it would seem that there was just something contained within it that the universe was warning against, as opposed to the whole package as I believed it to be. What is that? Well, it's something dark. Some time ago, you were unhealthily attached to a narcissist, is that attachment still there? And are those plans that you had that were scuppered a few months ago, did they include this narcissist? That's entirely possible. Or is it that there is something somewhat unsavoury about your plans? I don't know, and I'm not going to go into it. You will know better. But it's certainly to do with you having a sense of purpose and direction from these plans. It's got something to do with that. And the reason why things come tumbling down is you've been trying to do too much, trying to have too many balls in the air because of this thing that you're driven by.
Dieu les ramène vers toi. Mon Dieu